So what does a sweep of the Senate and House do to the market? My next guest is an accountant, and he knows all the numbers. In fact, he's America's accountant. Please welcome to the show, Dan Geltrude. Dan, thanks for coming on. Okay, there's a lot of events coming up, say, between now and a week from tomorrow. What's going to move the markets the most? What do you anticipate? And I suppose midterms are the biggest one besides non-farm. Do you think that's going to be good for the market? Or what do you think? I'll let you talk.
Scott, I think all these things we're talking about here, the Fed is going to raise rates, 75 basis points, that's baked in. And I think the markets are looking at this and saying it's going to be a Republican sweep. We're going to have both houses in Congress going over to the Republicans. That's why I believe we're seeing these numbers in the market for the month of October, especially the last half of the month, where it's becoming clear that Republicans are gaining a lot of momentum. We're looking at the Dow up 14% approximately this month, S&P 8%. These are tremendous numbers that we're seeing, and that's because, as you know, the market likes a stalemate, and that's exactly what's going to happen when the Republicans take both houses, Scott. Nothing gets done, which means not a lot of surprises, and that's why I think it's positive for the markets.
And they might also think that they're going to at least stop some of the bad stuff from happening, right? Because, that's part of that stalemate. I'm eagerly awaiting to see. I tell you, on the show, I said, I don't know, about a month ago now, it just seemed to me that everybody was looking for more doom and gloom, and the market was just going to really fall out of bed. And I kept on thinking, down 22% in that Dow. What's the next thing that's going to make that happen? And so I started to pump the brakes a little bit about being too much in a bad mood or too doom and gloomish. Now that we've rallied back 10, 12, 14%, are you telling folks to maybe lighten the load here a little bit? Or, there's still a lot of danger out there, isn't there?
Well, there's so much uncertainty still in the world, even though we may have, a locked up Congress with the president and nothing gets done. There's still a lot happening around the world. We still have problems with Ukraine and Russia and what's happening there. And let's not forget, the energy crisis hasn't alleviated itself either. So I look at the Congress going to Republicans as a way where there'll be negotiations between the White House and Republicans, as opposed to Democrats just negotiating amongst themselves. So you may actually be able, and I'm going to be positive because it's your holiday, Halloween, that maybe we may actually have some good stuff happen in Washington. How's that?
Yeah, well, maybe. It's been a while, right? So let me ask you a question, though. The one thing we haven't really seen show up, as a matter of fact, we haven't seen it show up, is job losses. Are you waiting for that shoe to drop?
It's hard to really have job losses, and I know we're seeing some headlines about some big companies out there are cutting back, but Scott, we still have 10 million job openings in the United States. So technically speaking, everyone who wants to work can work. So I don't necessarily see how we're going to see unemployment start to rise significantly when you have that many openings still out there in the market.
Yeah, that's always been a conundrum, that JOLTS, that job openings numbers. Everybody's talked about that because it's one of those that's kind of hard to understand. And I think the last read, we were, 3.5% even for the unemployment rate. So that's got to be pretty healthy. But still, we've seen these interest rate hikes. This Wednesday will be the sixth one, Dan, and we still don't see CPI underneath 8%. And we actually saw that PCE number go up the last read.
So to me, what that says is that there's actually no reason, based upon the course that the Fed has decided to go on, that they're going to back off, because they're raising rates, right? And they're not getting the results. So what are they going to do? They're going to follow the definition of insanity. They're going to keep doing the same thing with the same result. Although at some point, Scott, we will kill the economy, and throw us into a full-blown recession if we continue to raise rates. And let me say one other thing. Let's not forget how expensive the national debt is going to become as interest rates keep going up. You know, this whole tax and spend stuff, you know, that's all borrowed money.
Right.
So things could get pretty ugly there.
I agree with you. So, you know, it's easy right now to raise these rates, but I tell you, when Powell's got to look himself in the mirror and the unemployment rate's 4.5 or 5, and he hasn't really seen the CPI come down like he'd like, it's like, how many more people do I need to put out of work killing this economy? And we're just not really getting anywhere. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the show with Mitch Rochelle, a good friend of yours too. Appreciate you coming on. Dan Geltrude, Nutley, New Jersey. Thank you very much, Dan, for your content. It's